Hello and welcome to episode number 6 of the Social Q&A show. My name is Matt Kelly and today we're talking about a topic that's actually really interesting to me, and it's podcasting. So today's question for all of you today is, how do I create a podcast? Now this is a really broad, really open-ended question, but like I said, fortunately it's one that I know a little bit about, because going back a few years ago, a good friend and I actually started a podcast. We put it out to iTunes, we got featured in the new and noteworthy section, we built a pretty sizable audience, and there's like 80 hours of video content of us talking about a whole range of things around lifestyle design now online. So that's sort of what we did, and that was our funnel. So we had what was a video show, and our main distribution point was iTunes, right? So they have this podcasting section where people can go in there, and essentially anyone can become their own radio show or their own video show, and use iTunes as the distribution. And people who are browsing on their smartphone, or people who are like sitting on their Apple TV, or even just using iTunes at home, can easily go in there and find a whole range of content. Now the beauty of podcasting is that it's still not saturated, right? There isn't so much that you can't be found or you can't be seen, and that's what I love about it, is that it never picked up like posting video on YouTube picked up. So that's one of the huge opportunities with podcasting, is that it's not as noisy a space as traditional video platforms are. That's why podcasting is cool, right? So when you talk about podcasting, like I said, you're talking about audio and videos. The very first thing you've got to think about is, what kind of show do I want to produce? What do I want to be putting out there? Do I want to stand in front of a camera like I am right now and chat about what I care about? Or do I not enjoy doing that? Am I better off just doing an audio only show? There's just as many reasons why you should do that, right? You can just do an audio only show, and it's arguably easier in that you don't need the camera, any microphone, you can sit down with your computer and have a chat, right? And the other advantage with that is, if you've got a co-host, you can really share the same microphone, right? You can sit very closely together, and it doesn't really matter if you don't have the production quality from a video perspective right at the top. So that's an advantage of audio. The advantage of video is often that, you can build a stronger relationship. The viewer can see who you are. They can get all of the crazy expressions and things that I do with my hands. So there's some advantages of video there as well. Now, when you've decided what you want to create, what type of podcast you want to create, you really then got to think about the infrastructure, right? So how am I going to record? Okay, well, I've got a DSLR pointed at me right now. I've got a microphone mic'd up. This is how I would create my own video podcast. It was me just speaking to a camera. And if I was doing an audio podcast, I would probably have a proper USB condenser microphone that I would sit down next to and record straight into my computer with that, right? Really simple stuff. When myself and Dave, my co-host, were recording our show, even though we lived literally a couple of streets apart, we would often have a Skype conversation, with the Skype conversation being recorded on both sides. So we'd use call recording software, and what we would do is we would literally start the call and then just chat. And then I would take that 40-minute long recording, I'd throw it into iMovie, add our little introduction at the start, add the titles at the end, and that was literally good enough for us to go, sweet, get that onto iTunes. So that's sort of how we did it. Now, if you want to do higher end production quality, like I do with this show, what we would do is then I would throw it into something like Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro, even iMovie really, you can do a lot with that, right? That's if you're using a Mac. If you're using a PC, something as simple as Windows Movie Maker, or if you've got Adobe Creative Cloud software, then Adobe Premiere is perfect for that. Throw the video in there and you can start to cut it up and edit it and make changes and all that sort of stuff. So it's really simple. If we're doing an audio only show, I'll often use something as simple as GarageBand, which comes for free on the Mac, or I might go and use a free tool like Audacity on Windows. So you can start to then go, okay, I've now got this completed product ready to put out to the world. How do I do that? How do I get it into people's hands, right? You can't just upload it to iTunes. iTunes does not have that functionality. You need a third-party hosting provider. Now, I've tried a whole range of them, from hosting myself, using Amazon's hosting. I've used a bunch of different tools, and I'll tell you what, the single best tool that I can totally recommend at the moment for a video podcast is one called Podbean. So you can go to Podbean, you can essentially open your account, create your show. It gives you a special URL that you submit to iTunes. It's that simple, right? You submit that, and then going forward, you just upload each new episode into Podbean, and they syndicate it everywhere. That's really simple. But when we talk about simple, an audio-only show is even better, because there is a brand new startup called Simplecast. Now, Simplecast have literally made it simple to podcast with audio. So they don't do video yet, but you create your show, you've got this really simple dashboard, great analytics, a really easy way for you to just throw content in daily, weekly, monthly, however frequently you want, and a really cost-effective model. So these tools are not expensive. For Podbean, I think we're paying $20 a month. I think Simplecast is even less than that. I think it's closer to $10 a month. But the reality is, They're both really, really easy to use, simple tools. And you can host it yourself, and there are other ways to do it, but I'll tell you what, in my experience, it's just been an easier process to use an existing host with existing infrastructure. So that's my process, right? Capture it using camera, microphone. I've got an Audio Technica USB mic that I use if I'm sitting in front of a computer. Edit it using something like Adobe Premiere, Final Cut. That's pretty simple. Windows Movie Maker, if you've got it, right? If you're using a Windows PC and you want something for free, that's pretty easy. You know, so then you've got this completed product after you've edited it, then it's upload. So Podbean or Simplecast, and that is all you really need to do. Submit it to iTunes. They're going to take a couple of days maximum to approve it. And if you're really, really lucky, they're going to feature you in the new and noteworthy section where you'll get that massive spike of traffic in the very, very early days. So I hope that happens for you. I will do a future video if people want it on how we promote the podcast and build the audience and retain the audience. That's the hard part, right? Even if you get a lot of traffic, what happens if, you know, what happens next, right? You've got to have great content so they stay with you, and you've really got to have extra hooks to keep them interested and engaged in what you're doing. So that's what we'll talk about again soon. But in the meantime, my name was Matt Kelly. Please feel free to subscribe if you like this channel, if you like my YouTube channel, subscribe. That would be awesome. That's just the massive, you know, like gratification and thank you and whatever that I need to keep doing it. So thank you for that. Feel free to add comments below, thumbs up or thumbs down if you hate it. That's all cool with me. And I'm sure I will see you very, very soon. See you later, everyone.